I would go see it personally because I do think it is actually scary. It's hard nowadays to find movies that really can creep you out. Yeah, if it was my way, there would be buckets of blood, but there's enough.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to West Coast Pop. We have another special one for you. Joining the show, the writer, the actress herself, right now killing the game in horror. We're joined by none other than Anna Shields.
Hey, good. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Anna Shields is back on the channel. You can check out our last interview we did with her, Dawn of the Beast. Check out the movie as well. But she's back again with the North Witch. And of course, I'm joined by the main man himself, Zach, man. How's it going?
It's going good because we're talking about my favorite subject in movies, horror. Anna, thank you for providing another fun watch for us with the North Witch.
Yay, you're welcome. Thanks for watching it.
Yes, sir.
Hell
and
yeah.
then while we have a horror fan, we have someone who, you gave me nightmares again, Anna. Thank you for that.
Yay!
But we're going to get into that for sure. Zach, you got to start any questions.
Okay, so we've talked about Dawn of the Beast. You got a nice resume of horror writing and acting in there. This one, The North Witch, it plays on some elements with witches and my favorite location for horror, the woods. So just if you can just briefly take us through the process of where you came up with the idea and how long it took from conception, writing, production, post to having it now available to watch.
Sure, yeah. It's funny. Originally, I was just trying to make like sort of a spin-off in the same world as one of Bruce's older movies called The Retreat, which was all just about the Wendigo legends. And I really loved that one. Obviously, I touched on that one in Dawn of the Beast too, but I really wanted to do less campy and more of like a moody, kind of dramatic, very scary thing about the Wendigo. So I was kind of just trying to do a little spin-off of that in like a cold environment. But then as I was plotting it out, Bruce and I were talking just during the writing stage, and he was like, you know what, this should just be its own movie. And I was like, all right, that's fine. And then, we're just trying to come up with, okay, what supernatural thing are we going to do? We've done Bigfoot, the Wendigo, other stuff. And we were like, how about a witch? We've never done that. So that was literally how that came about. And the writing did not take super long. I think it was probably like 3 weeks. And then we got greenlit and funded, I think like a couple days after the script was finished.
So it was a quick process.
Nice.
Yeah. There were a few little tweaks after, always before production, like, oh, wait, we can't do that. We don't have the budget for a bunch of CGI crows bursting out of a fireplace or something. So it's like,
right.
But only a few weeks after that, and then we kind of just got into it and, got it going.
Nice.
And then for me, I remember in the last interview we did with you, you mentioned like, you can write a whole bunch of stuff, but once you get to set, everything can change. So I was wondering, like, watching this, and I did notice the tone change as well. Was there anything you had to improv on this or change as soon as you got to set, like, oh, this has to be completely different?
Oh, yeah. I think one of the biggest thing was I was really hoping for snow, and one of the characters was supposed to freeze to death. And we get there and surprise, no snow, global warming. So we literally had to, like, that night, Bruce was like, all right, what's going to happen? Like, and we kind of came up with
weather.
It was a little like a Suspiria scene where like bones are twisting and stuff. And another thing was a bunch of sequences with the witch. I had just written to be kind of in the spooky area out in the woods. And I feel bad if I'm giving stuff away, but if people are watching this, hopefully they saw the movie. But
hopefully you saw the movie.
Or they will. But we had no idea that in this Airbnb in the cabin, they had just this cellar. Basement. We had no idea. Under the rug, you pull it up, there's this trapped cellar. So obviously we had to write that in, and Bruce is like, okay, Anna, put it in. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, okay.
That's a heck of a surprise. I don't know if I would have stayed along for that.
Yeah, I know. We were like, "Oh, thanks for telling us." Like,
Right, you got to put that in the notes on the Airbnb.
yeah, good for us, but I agree.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, do you enjoy finding kind of hidden surprises like that? I know it can be frustrating doing rewrites, but the snow is one thing, but that cellar had to have been a nice surprise.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, especially when you're doing such low budget things and you don't kind of have to go through a million hands and like okay things, it can be really fun to kind of work as a group because a lot of times we just talk to each other. You know, it's the end of the shoot day and we're all just hanging out because we all kind of live together in this Airbnb for a while. So it's like this nice little group setting. And then
Yeah,
when things go wrong or different, I think it almost makes it feel even more collaborative because everybody's kind of fixing it and has a hand in the movie. So yeah,
yeah.
And then again, last time we interviewed you with Dawn of the Beast, you mentioned like how much you like to write the characters and like put a lot of character stuff in there. So we're just curious, how was it writing these characters? Like again, we had a bit of a tone change with this one with your character Madison. Very heavy stuff, even from the beginning. You know, just getting kicked to the boot, and then now we're on this road trip. And so how was that process?
Yeah, you know what's so funny? It was actually a really complicated one because Bruce and I really wanted to write like a kind of a fragile character, but not, I want to say, or you still want to like her, and then maybe she takes a turn later in the movie. But we wanted you to be on her team, but also be sort of a grayish area and like not really sure what's going on with the character. And I think I tend to overwrite sometimes, and I really like dialogue and interactions. But I think the goal of this movie was more mood and what happens inside the cavern,
Yeah.
into madness kind of thing. So we actually had, I think, 3 or 4 scenes that got cut of like establishing the character a little bit more. But yeah, we just figured, cut to the windstorm, get it going, get the action going. And I think got enough of where we were going with that character and the fact that she's isolated and kind of on her own. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that was very like some heavy stuff there. I mean, I put it down here like within 20 minutes of the movie, I was already very uncomfortable with a lot of the imagery, going on, and then just there was a lot going. It gets intense quick. So everybody, you go out and watch it. If you're looking for a good time, again, don't watch it at night, maybe, but definitely give this movie a watch.
So I just want to piggyback off your writing on Madison because that you do want to be along for her ride because it is the entirety of the movie, and you do want to root for her. You have something that's kind of an analogy that gets spoke upon later in the film. Again, I don't want to give anything away, but was this intentional where she gets told that someone is always fixing her wounds and she's never satisfied? That does get established right away in the movie, and it is a cause for a domino effect of things to happen later on in the movie. Was that an intentional thing, or was that part of the rewrites as well?
100%. Yeah, that was intentional. So the way that Bruce and I were describing the character is somebody that is super clingy and almost seems like a good friend, but then the minute they don't need you, they kind of disappear. But then the second they need something, they kind of come back and it's like, oh, wait, we're best friends, right? And so it was kind of like that and implying that while at the same time trying to keep the audience wanting to stay with her. So it was very complicated, and we were kind of trying to ride that line, which I think is some of the reason why we cut some of the earlier scenes out with her, because it was a little too much.
No, that putting that line in where it is in the movie helps bring the viewer back all the way through and just helps resonate with the rest of the movie. It's so tough to talk about without spoiling this movie, but I thought that was a very nice touch.
Thank you.
That was
a little hard to
sorry.
Spoilers. Sorry.
So with this movie, I also noticed, people with these injuries, going on. It's brutal. I want to know, how long was it for you to? I know you wrote the character, but how long was it for you to get into character and also go through that makeup process?
Oh my God. Well, emotionally getting into character, you don't have a lot of time every shoot day because you're up and at 'em. We start shooting pretty early most days, or we're going super late. So you're sleeping
Yeah.
so that, and I need a lot of sleep. So it's probably like half an hour and then you got to be ready to go. But
Yeah.
prosthetic wise, especially some stuff later in the movie,
Oh my.
hours of just sitting there. Thank God our makeup artist Jess is amazing and works as fast as she can. But yeah, definitely hours in the makeup chair. And then lots of tending to wounds on set in between takes
Yeah.
because guys up, even fake blood and stuff like that. But it was still a lot of fun. And yeah, it was cool.
So there is a lot of makeup with the wounds in here. Let me just run down stuff without giving spoilers. All right.
Oh.
We have mutilation. We have sewing up wounds. We have cauterizing wounds, objects being pulled out of wounds, axes, hammers, tracheotomies, and a whole lot more. So between you, Bruce, and the rest of the makeup and the crew, how long is a basic process of figuring out how to cut something? And like, this is enough because what just came out, Terrifier 3, where more, it's almost sequelitis with the horror and the gore. This is less, which is, it plays with your mind a little bit more. Sewing up wounds is something that just got me. You did it just enough to keep me from vomiting. I appreciate that. But what is the process of editing that down so it's not too much and it's not gore fest?
Well, I will tell you, I think I am more on the Terrifier level opinion. I love a lot. Tends to love less, which is probably smarter with a lower budget because it depends on what you can get away with. That still looks okay. But yeah, I remember even with filming the sewing scene, Bruce was like, "Oh man, I don't know, this might be going a little far." But I should actually know this, but I know Bruce would know. But I feel like we didn't edit out a lot. Like we showed most of what we had going on. And I think maybe just, a lot of cutting away to faces and reactions.
Yeah.
But of course, you're also limited by what you have. And we always do practical effects at, at least 90% or whatever. I think, no, this was like 90%. So you only have what you have. So a lot of it is just having to do with not faking it, but making it look as good as you can without suddenly seeing the border of like a little stick or something. Yeah, if it was my way, there would be buckets of blood, but there's enough.
I'm sure.
Oh man.
There was one thing I just want to say. I like the less is more on where something was being pulled out of a body. That I really appreciate because I saw that done in another movie and it was so much. It was like a magician pulling scarves out. I was waiting for a fucking rabbit to come out. It was just too much. This was perfect. It was gross and nice and disgusting.
Thank you.
And then for me, what some of the stuff that really got to me, which again, not to give away spoilers, but leading towards the end, your on-screen relationship with Caitlin. How was that chemistry like? Because I felt like you guys were always on it and really making me again feel uncomfortable, throughout the whole journey.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. So Caitlin had actually done a couple of movies with the director Bruce already, and I had seen those movies, but I don't think she and I were in one together. So we're meeting just the first time right on set, and I think I had already shot a couple days, and then she showed up. So it was funny because I feel like we had both, or at least I had seen her in the movies before, and then it almost feels like you know each other, but you don't. I'm like, oh, I can't act too comfortable with her. I technically have never met this person. But just luckily she was on it. And, it's always great when actors know their lines and have everything ready to go. And I think she's just really talented. So it was very easy to kind of play off each other. And we didn't do a ton of rehearsing. We would go through it like very quickly, sometimes the night before, maybe even just before the scene with Bruce. But mostly that was just to block things out. And I think she and I were sort of on the same level of just going off of each other's reactions and trying to make it as natural as we can, even though it's super weird and supernatural.
How is now? This is another project that you worked with Bruce on. Is it easier working when you got new people coming in, having Bruce behind the camera? Does it help that dynamic?
Yeah. You mean like, is it easier having him, knowing him, and having new people coming in, or just new people in general?
Right, right. So if you are working with Caitlin, it's not as awkward not knowing them and just barely rehearsing.
Yeah, 100%. It's always great. I mean, it's almost like, for lack of a better term, like a buffer having Bruce there, because Anne's
Yeah.
like half of the cast or half of the crew, most of the crew. It's nice that there is already this kind of bond there. And so it's nice to just welcome new people into that. And yeah, it definitely does make the transition easier instead of, having a few days kind of feeling a little awkward and settling into new relationships. It's more like, welcome to the family, that kind of
Yeah.
Then again, I'm gonna keep tying it back to Dawn of the Beast because I feel like you've got your whole monster universe going on here. Last time we talked to you, you said someone found their way on set to disturb you guys. Did that happen for a second time this time?
my God. You know, no, but I do remember that in Dawn of the Beast, the guy in the cornfield or something, right?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. This one, we did have an Airbnb neighbor, or so what we thought originally was that this Airbnb, we're always trying to look for one just away from people because we generally ADR screens, record them later, but for some of them, we do end up shouting something,
Mhm.
try to get Airbnbs that are secluded. This one had a long driveway, but we didn't realize that it had two other houses. Like, it was like a dead end little cul-de-sac with two other houses. We're like, oh dear. But I think, if I'm remembering right, it was owned by the same person, or maybe a couple people owned them together. But there was a neighbor right around who would come out and just start like mowing the lawn or like chopping wood. And
What are we
meanwhile,
doing here?
curtains are open inside, just like swinging an axe at each other stuff. And we're like, don't mind us. But yeah, so we did
That
have
says
that.
something about them. If they're not disturbed by what they see in that window and didn't call any cops, that says something about them.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Howdy, neighbor.
Oh
Yep,
gosh.
it's another Wednesday.
Yep.
And then was this a familiar shoot location? I know last time you were in upstate New York, or
Mhm.
okay,
Oh, I'd say, I want to say 100% of the time. I think it's almost 100% of the time we're in upstate, either saying it's upstate or Canada. I
yeah.
believe this one is Canada,
I
but
mean, the visually it was beautiful. I love. I telling Zach, I love how it was shot. And it's a weird way to describe a horror movie, but once it was opening, I was like, everything's really nice. Then it got to the gruesome stuff. So you took me on a little ride there.
yay, good. No, we this one though we shot in a town I hadn't been in. I don't think it was called Kerhonken, and I was
Oh
like,
wow.
excuse me. Uh, but it was a nice little town, and yeah, town. And what was funny about that was there was only like two restaurants we could really order from around there for dinners and lunch and stuff. And one of the restaurants we went to, they're like, "Oh, you're all not from around here, right?" Um,
Can tell already.
accent wasn't anyway. But we were like, "Oh no, we're shooting a movie," and they go, apparently, like a week before, there was like some bigger budgeted movie shooting there, and they're like, "Oh, I forget the actor," but they're like, "You're with that," and we're just like, "No."
Come on.
But apparently they're shooting in there, so Kerhonk
Oh
everybody.
man,
You're honking. That's the place.
blow it
Yeah.
up.
So this does have what I assume is going to be a fictional story attached here with the Barren cabin and everything going on up in Canada. Did you come up with all that on your own? Because there is a good lore here that you built up with it. The cabin. Let me just break this down really quick. Of course, it's in the very beginning of the movie, so if you watch it, it's all broken down in there. But since 1972, over 40 hunters, hikers have been reported missing. Local states connected to the disappearance of the Barren House in 1963. And I like the lore. I like that there's a book about the lore in here, and I like that it's referenced throughout. I can't give anything away, but later on in the movie. Is it something that you created then while you're writing, or did you take little bits and pieces here from what you've read?
Yeah, that Bruce and I actually came up with together because we were trying to, we're like, okay, we're doing a witch. Let's give her a backstory. Let's make it a little, maybe could be viewed as sympathetic or some kind of reason that somebody would be evil, something like that.
Yeah.
I do remember, I think the Barren Lands was a real place or something like that. I love that I don't even know. Once I write something, I completely separate when I go on set to go act. So I try.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of came up with that together. I think we had also talked about the Blair Witch Project and how there was a lot of lore behind that. And we were really just interested in coming up with our own kind of little backstory for that. So I don't have a clear answer, just rambling. We thought of it.
So you got a lot going on. Again, not to spoil the movie, but this movie really makes you play with the timeline. It makes you think of what is real, what's not, who is sane, who is not, and makes you rethink things after certain things happen. Actually, twice. We won't talk about. There's a stinger at the end, so make sure you watch that stinger at the end because
stick to the end.
Man, it's good, and it really makes you rewatch the movie again in your mind. But how did you keep track of everything on there? Because it can be a lot to go back and forth, go back in time, make things sane and not sane. So did you have something like just like in your notes? Did you have one of those conspiracy boards with the string going back and forth? Did you have a script supervisor? What was your method to keeping everything right on the page?
Yeah, the board was in the cellar. No, that's actually really hard, and it's embarrassing, but my memory is the worst, even when I write something, and every time I get to set, I have to I look at, first of all, you get like a very loose shooting schedule, so what you're shooting the next day, but most of the time it's going to change. And surprise, you're actually doing the page where you have 2 monologues or something.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, of course. So just be ready for anything. But it was super complicated. And I think I definitely learned from this mistake, but I think on the shooting script, not the regular script, we didn't write the page numbers to reference in the original script. So I got super confused, oh, okay, well, it's after this scene in the shooting script because this is the scene we're shooting next, but
right.
What's that after in the original? And it's only 2 lines. I'm limping outside looking for someone. So and so it was kind of, mine did turn into just kind of a red page script, and I'm like, no one touch my script, because we all share things.
Yeah.
Please, I don't know what's happening. So yeah, it was super complicated. I tried to make a lot of notes, and I would have to, every single little thing, even if it was like a 5-minute pickup shot, I'm like, it's probably some kind of, I have a leg wound for the majority of the movie, and I'm like, how bad's the leg wound? And I keep waking up in the middle of the night being like, oh God, I wasn't limping enough for that scene, or oh God, I was limping way too much. Not that anyone's staring at that, but I don't know. That to me was so.
That just shows you were locked in. You're locked in.
Yeah, locked in.
So what would be your dream team of horror movie characters to go after the cabin? Because this is no joke. This is real serious stuff, and not everyone makes it.
Okay, you mean horror, characters from any horror movie?
Any horror character that you liked. Who would be your dream team that could take on this task?
Okay. The ladies from The Descent, for sure.
Okay. Nice.
They can do some work here.
They were all great. I know they didn't all make it, but they all put up a much better fight than I would have. So I just had Cillian Murphy from 28 Days Later. I think he's loyal. He'd come back for you.
You need that. When things go awry, you need something.
Yeah, and man, I'm gonna try to think of somebody bad. Maybe somebody bad that could fight something supernatural. Freddy Krueger, if he could be on my team.
Oh, that's a huge risk, but he'd be a strong player.
He'd make you laugh too. He's great at stand-up. I love his material.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not in LA anymore, so I just gotta ask. what is one thing you miss about LA and one thing you sure as hell do not miss about LA?
I think I have to be really basic and say I miss the weather. I really do. Stupid, but I got in. I watch like TV shows about LA still, and I'm just like, God damn those palm trees! I miss them palm trees.
Yeah.
Ambulance. um, One thing I do not miss. Let's see, what's something that's not gonna have people hate me. I don't miss how crowded things get, even though it's not as bad as New York or anything. But I really love just having a little. Technically, I'm in a city right now, but it's just so suburban, and I can walk down the street and not feel like I have to be like put together because people are gonna see me. I can just like schlep around and like
Just do your thing.
yeah, do my thing, and no one cares. They say hello, my neighbors.
All right. And then before we wrap up, just the last pitch. Why should people go see the North Witch right now?
Oh boy, you're putting me on the spot. I should expect that, but I would go see it personally because I do think it is actually scary. And I think it's hard nowadays to find movies that really can creep you out. I'm always looking for those. And I think generally I tend to, in the past movies I've done, lean a little more into campy. Not that this one doesn't at all, but I do think it's a good chance to see something that might actually scare you and give you a bad dream or two in a fun way.
Seriously, she's not joking about that. I mean, you might not be able to find the cabin, but you can find the North Witch on Prime Video right now. Zach, any last things you got?
If you want to talk about really quick, and next up you have My Best Friend's Dead. Do you want to touch on that really quick before we head out?
Yes. What's covered up?
Yeah, sure. So that one, My Best Friend's Dead, we actually shot that years ago. It was distributed. That one was through Lionsgate, but through, I believe, Grindstone. And it came out in some country that is not this country. And we're waiting to see when it will appear in this country. And I keep telling people to go bug Lionsgate because we have no idea. But hopefully one day, whether it be tomorrow or 5 years, hopefully it will be out in the world.
All right. We'll keep an eye out, and definitely if we find out where it is, or if we get a bootleg VHS at a convention somewhere, we'll let everyone know here on the channel.
Please do.
But I mean, thank you, Anna, for giving us some of your time and joining the channel. Everyone, go flood Prime Video, wherever you can find it, Apple TV, Fandango. The movie is scary. You heard it from me first, The Final Boss. It is no joke. Anna killed it. Zach, everybody, to the West Coast Poppers, peace out. And thank you, Anna.
Thank you.